Hi, welcome. In this video, I'm going to cover some neat extensions for VS Code and some settings I use and some other things that I just generally like about the editor. Before I dive in though, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and to hit that bell, just because when you hit that bell, there is a chance that I might be using VS Code actually in my live streams. I just really like VS Code as a general editor, and so I like to use it from now and then. So now that that's been said, let's hop in and talk about what I use VS Code for. Well, I use it for web development, as most people do nowadays. And I also use it for general notes because I like the way that Markdown works in it. It looks really nice with that preview editor for Markdown. And we can see in here, we have our Markdown written in here. This is just my blog repo. Then if I go to view, or sorry, not view. If I go to Command-Shift-P, Markdown, here's my preview for it, and now we can see exactly how it's supposed to look, which is really nifty. It also includes images, all that good stuff. Links will work in the preview, all that kind of thing. And that Markdown preview is pretty useful. I really like it. I really enjoy it. So now let's talk about another thing that makes VS Code, and that are the extensions. And that is probably the favorite part of VS Code for me. So let's talk about those extensions now. The very first one is Path Intellisense, and your Path Intellisense is going to just autocomplete file names for you. And with Path Intellisense, we can see in here that it is just going to, from this image, it's just going to fill in that path to the source, to the file for you. So we can see in this image, it's just going to fill in that CSS file location. So we can actually see this in real life. If I go to my to-do app here, we're going to go ahead and make a new component, new file, test component. We'll just call it test component 2.js. Now, if I need to import the main component here, all I do is hit import main component from /, and then here are all the things that I can import from main component. And now my main component has been imported, which is really nice. It's really nifty. It just helps clean it up. And is that screenshot or that GIF inside the extension download showed, it can also be used for CSS files. It can be used for your script files and your HTML sheets, all that kind of stuff. So now let's go to my next extension that I wanted to talk about today. And that is going to be Better Comments. And Better Comments is really useful, and why I really like it, because I like to leave meaningful comments. I like to leave a lot of comments in my code. And whenever I leave a lot of comments, sometimes it's really hard to distinguish what's a comment, what's not a comment, like what's important, what's just marking it in my tree, all that kind of stuff, in my mini map. And Better Comments lets me distinguish that, because what Better Comments is going to do is it's going to give you a way to quickly format your important notes, your questions, your to-dos, and your parameters. So let's go ahead and check those out real quick. So now I'm going to go ahead and add a comment. It's also super easy to add a comment once you have Better Comments installed, because you can just hit /**, and now you're good to go. You hit enter, and now we can start typing. So general note. It's just this light gray color. Of course, it's going to change based on what theme you have. Then if I needed to add a to-do, once I type in to-do, my comments turn orange. So now my to-do comments are just like really sticking out on the page. We'll say finish the component. Now, if I type in question, we can start seeing blue, because we need to start figuring out like what a question actually is. So now anytime there's a comment with a question mark, it's going to turn blue. What does this component do? Then you have the @param option, and the @param option is going to allow you to actually define your parameters for this option, for this component. So @param, we'll say props.list equals pet names. Why would it equal pet names? I don't know. That doesn't make sense for it to do that, but we're just going to live with it. And that's really all that the Better Comments does, is that it is going to make your code a little bit easier to see, a little bit easier to read, because it's going to go and format those things. And here it is inside the extension It's also going to get you queries, alerts, to-dos, highlights, basically all that kind of stuff that I was just saying. Asterisk also can get you at least bolded comments, so it just makes it a little bit nicer. Now, and it also supports a slew of languages. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, which also includes React and Vue, Swift, Go, and so much more. So on the page to install it, it'll actually give you this whole list of languages that it supports. I highly suggest, like, if you use VS Code at all, like, this is the one of the best tools, because as good as your self-documented code is, it's not nearly as good as actually documented and commented out code. The next extension I want to talk about is the bracket pair Colorizer 2. And we can start to see this inside this component here, inside this home.js component. And what the bracket pair Colorizer 2 is going to do is it is going to give you unique colors for each bracket that's inside it. So we have these parentheses, but because there's nothing inside it, we just reuse the yellow. So inside here, we have these open curly braces. Then once we actually have the parentheses inside the open curly braces, that's when the color starts changing. If I put another parentheses here, we have another set of colors. Another thing that bracket pair Colorizer does is with the parentheses, we can see that there's this faint purple line, and that purple line is actually showing you everything that's inside those brackets. If I go to this curly brace here, we will see this yellow line that's showing you everything inside those curly braces. So bracket pair Colorizer 2 basically just allows you to see what's inside each set of brackets, which is super duper important for JavaScript, Swift development, all that kind of stuff. And the difference between bracket pair Colorizer 2 and 1 is basically bracket pair Colorizer 2 works on the VS Code coloring engine, so it's a little bit faster. I really enjoy it. And you can just see here how we can start getting more and more different colors as you go in. Another super duper formatting tool that I really like, and another extension that I really like to use, is Prettier. Basically, they nickname it as an opinionated linter. So it's very specific things for you so that you can make sure that your code is always formatted. And here we can see that I have it installed right here, Prettier Code Formatter. All it does is it goes and it formats your code into specific styles. So it makes sure that I use the right parentheses. So like if I were to tab this out, now it's way over. As soon as I hit Command S to save, it's going to take it back to its proper formatting. If I were to forget to put semicolons everywhere, when I hit Command S, it's going to add those semicolons again. So that's just really useful so that my code is nice and consistent. The reason why I also like it is because I hop a lot between JavaScript and Swift. Swift doesn't use parentheses, and if it does, and I accidentally put it, then there's a bunch of errors I have to go and fix. Now, JavaScript, you can use both parentheses or no parentheses, but it's best practice to always use parentheses. So by utilizing Prettier, if I forget my parentheses with my JavaScript, I can automatically add it. Another reason that I really like using Prettier is because of the ability to add, for it to be in sync with the rest of my team. My team likes to use 4 spaces. I generally like to use 2 spaces. So how I solve this is my editor is set to 2 space. Every time I hit tab, it adds 2 spaces. But my Prettier config file that I keep local on my computer is actually set to 4 spaces for that directory. So every time I hit tab in that directory, it goes to 4 spaces. Every time I hit tab in any other JavaScript app that I'm working on, it goes 2 spaces. It just makes it a little bit easier for me to, again, be in sync with the rest of my team. Now for the last extension that I really like to use, that's going to be a snippet extension for ES7 React Redux GraphQL React Native snippets. And they just work really easily, which is nice. And it's why I like them. It keeps me from typing a lot of redundant code. I really only use it for about 5 snippets. Let's switch and see what they are and see how they work. All right, so the first snippet that I like to use in here is the import React snippet. So if you notice in here, I just imported a component, but I didn't actually import React. So the easiest way to import React is IMR, and then it's right here, import React. Oh, done. Now I didn't have to go import React. Whoops, I typed wrong from React. It was just IMR, and it's done. Another one that I really like is export default. So if I needed to export a component here, so we have React made, let's just do class, or let's just copy and paste this real quick. It'll be just as easy. So once I get this function copied in here, we're gonna type in exp, and that's gonna export default, and then I can say home, and now it's export default home. It's already done. It's ready to go. So again, it just quickens me a little bit more there. Another one that I also really like is the IMD, which is going to import a deconstructed, import destructing. So this is really useful if you're using like a material library, like the material UI library, where I can import paper, grid, box, all that kind of stuff now. And now I don't have to do import paper, import grid, import box kind of deal. Again, it's just super nice that way. The next thing is the NFN, which is going to be a constant function. So if I type in NFN here, it's going to give me a named function, which is also super duper useful. I use these kind of functions a lot in React, where I can type in great name, first name, and then I can do console.log first name. And I could also return first name here. Great. And again, you can see these colorizers come back right there. Now another one, if I didn't want to have to type out console.log here, one that I could do instead is do CLG, and that's going to give me console.log, and then I can type in what I need. Name. Done. See, and this just makes things really easy. And those are really my 5 favorite extensions. So you have IMR, which is to import React, EXP, which is to export your defaults, NFN creates that named function with that constant, IMD imports the deconstructed module, and then CFN, and then CLG, which is just quickly console.log. It's a big extension to use for only 5 snippets, but if it's useful, it's useful. You can't deny the usefulness. Now let's talk about the aesthetics a little bit in my VS Code setup. The first thing is my font. I use Operator Mono. I paid way too much money for it back in the day, but it's really nice. I use it all the time. I use it in VS Code. I use it in Xcode. I basically use it in every editor that I can, and I generally don't stay away from it. Sometimes I will switch it to Furicode, and switching it to Furicode will give me the ligatures. And what ligatures are is instead of doing bracket and then caret, it basically draws it into an arrow for me. Sometimes I like that. Sometimes it's a little bit nicer. Those are the two fonts that I'll go back and forth between. My current theme right now is Xcode, but sometimes I use Cobalt 2 by Wes Boss, just so that you guys can see what it is. And I mean, it looks cool. It looks fun. Command KT again and get back to Xcode. Default dark. And there we go. And it looks very similar to Xcode. I do a lot of Swift programming, so Xcode is really, really useful. My icon set, I believe, is the material icons. Yeah, material icon theme. So that just gives me the JS here, index.css. If I were to open my 100 Days of Swift log here, you can actually check and see it has like Swift icons that get ignore, readme icons, that kind of thing. So you get special icons. I like them. Again, it's just pure aesthetics and makes it a little bit easier for me to understand what files are where. And I think that's it. So If you have any extensions that you think I should try, whether it's for helping me with Markdown, helping me with React, speed up my workflow, stuff like that, I love learning new workflow tools. So that would be perfect for you to pass along here. Leave a comment, let me know, reach out on my Instagram at parttimedeveloper_. Let me know. I'm always on the hunt for new exciting things. And like I said, I'd love to take a look. So again, thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. I live stream my app and web development every Tuesday, Thursday at 6:45 a.m. CDT or CST, Central Standard Time. So 6:45 a.m. Central Standard Times, Tuesday and Thursdays. Make sure, again, to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and the bell. If you hit the bell, you'll just be notified when it happens. If you happen to miss a live stream, I always upload them later to YouTube here just because it's a little bit better. Sometimes I'm able to speed it up. Sometimes I'm not, depending if I remember to record my audio or not. All that good stuff. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all around next time. Bye.